Hey guys, Disaster Source here, and today I'm going to show you my top 4 most used invasion and frontline builds that allow me to top frag nearly every single game. So if you want scores like these, keep watching while we dive into the first build. The first build that we'll be looking at is the War Axe build. It's in a previous guide, but it still remains one of the strongest builds that I currently use in Invasion. With the release of patch 19, the War Axe length increased by 5 centimeters and is still a very popular weapon choice because of its ability to two-shot most opponents. It favors speed over heavy armor, so it's one that is used best when zooming in and out between multiple opponents and also for flanking. Since it only has a tier 1 helmet, you can get one-shot by projectiles, so having the Pavis is especially useful for this build to avoid getting pelted to death by arrows. Having a fire pod is great for any occasion, whether it be corralling enemies into a certain area or burning down fortifications. Build number 2 has a mix of speed and protection against projectiles, as it uses a tier 2 helmet instead of our previous build, which only had a tier 1. The Bardish is a weapon that I don't personally see a lot of people use, but it's actually nearly surpassed the War Axe in terms of my favorite weapon of choice when on the battlefield. The length of the weapon allows for great drags and has fantastic excels, especially when using the overhead attack. Like the War Axe, the Bardish has the potential for a 2-hit kill against heavily armored opponents, and a 1-hit kill against low armor opponents. I think where the Bardish excels the most is with toe drags because they can be quite unreadable with this weapon in my experience, as opposed to other similar weapons such as the Halberd. The only downside to the Bardish is the stab damage, but the combo speed more than makes up for that if you utilize tactics such as combo feinting. This short clip from a recent stream is showcasing just how effective the Bardish is against multiple opponents, regardless of their armor type. It cuts down players that are in heavy armor or in light armor, and with a little positioning and footwork, the drags and swing manipulation on the Bardish are truly something that keeps bringing me back to this build over and over again. It's a force to be reckoned with on the battlefield, which is why it sits at number 2 of my most used builds on Invasion. The next build we'll be looking at is a Halberd build. The Halberd is a lot like the Bardish in many ways, but its stabs deal a significantly larger amount of damage compared to the Bardish. When morphing into a stab from any number of angles, the damage of the Halberd stab makes it a more viable choice for those who regularly use stabs in their playstyle. This build focuses a great deal on executing opponents quickly with a slash and incorporating stabs to the head in order to finish them off. The downside to this build is that a lot of the damage received, assuming your opponent is paying attention to your armor, would likely come from a blow to the legs, and it could be quite deadly if your opponent is using a weapon such as the Executioner's Sword. Coming in at number 4, the Executioner's Sword build is one that is great for fighting and survival in more of a tank style format as opposed to the typical run and slash, or as others might call it, the rat, playstyle of the previously mentioned builds. The heavy armor of this build allows for you to potentially take more hits before being killed in battle, and the bandage as a secondary provides the healing buff that some might normally get from a perk like Bloodlust. The bandage will always be a more viable option in comparison to the Bloodlust perk if you're more interested in maintaining a better KD than you would have if you were perhaps running a naked Executioner Sword build coupled with Bloodlust. The Executioner Sword has phenomenal drags, so if you plan to play this build, make sure you're capitalizing on that and brushing up on your skills in that area, as it will likely catch a great deal of opponents you face off guard due to how much you can actually drag the Executioner Sword. This clip coming up showcases just how brutal it can be to face this build in battle. No matter what your playstyle is, there's a build out there for everyone. Give these ones a try and build upon them to make sure that they fit the way that you want to play. I appreciate you taking the time to watch the video, and if you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a comment below and subscribe to the channel.